Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Zara Seidler.
I'm Billi FitzSimons.
Over the weekend, Netflix announced it was acquiring Warner Bros. For over 100 billion Australian dollars in a deal that has significant ramifications for the media landscape in Hollywood and beyond. In today's podcast, Billi, we're going to explain what we know about the deal itself, why everyone is talking about it, and what it means for all of us Netflix watchers.
Zara, when we heard murmurs of this on Friday, Sam asked me how much I thought the deal would be worth.
Oh, I was working from home. I missed all of this.
And this is going to be quite revealing and embarrassing.
What did you say?
My guess was $5 billion US.
Oh,
And I thought that was a good guess.
Wow.
And for the record, so did Sam.
To be fair, I think once the brain gets over $1 billion, it's really hard to distinguish anything after that. It's just such a big number. So many zeros, don't even know how many, that's hard to distinguish.
My brain did not go to the $83 billion US.
You know what?
Fair
enough, Billi.
that this deal was. So then it was on Saturday that this deal was confirmed.
Correct.
Tell us about the announcement.
Yeah, so you're right. Netflix announced it formally, but there was a lot of reporting in the lead up that it was going to happen. But on the 5th of December, it was announced that Netflix would be acquiring Warner Bros. For the equivalent of 125 billion Australian dollars. Now, in case you are not familiar, because I think it can be hard to remember who does what in this space, Warner Bros. Owns significant franchises, so things like Harry Potter, not sure if you're familiar.
Very familiar.
Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, like the really big franchises. And Warner Bros. Also owns the streaming service HBO Max, which makes shows like Succession and Big Bang Theory, among others. Warner Bros. Also currently owns a cable division, which includes the news channel CNN. So just to be clear, Netflix will only be buying the film and TV streaming part of the business, and that cable unit, so things like CNN, that'll be carved out and that will become a separate company, not under Netflix's ownership. The deal has been approved by both company boards, that was in the announcement, but it will still require regulatory approval both in the US and in Europe. It is expected, though, to take effect later next year after Warner Bros. Has done that carve out of the CNN stuff and has set that all up. The deal will go through then. So Q3 next year. And
do we know if Warner Bros. Will still exist as a brand or it will all become Netflix, or they haven't told us that yet?
Oh, very good question. A lot is unclear at the moment. What we do know is that all of the back catalogue, so all of those movies I just said, they will go over to Netflix. What happens moving forward in terms of the production of new movies and the like, we don't have a lot of detail about what that will look like, whether it will be like co-owned by the two or what it will be. So just remains to be seen.
And this was a really big deal.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not often that a business announcement like this really makes the waves that this announcement did. Why do you think that everyone was talking about it?
I think that there's probably two main reasons. The first is how we led with this. I think the financial perspective, which is that this is a really big deal in every sense of the word. So at 125 billion Australian dollars, it ranks as one of the biggest deals of the year. I read a LinkedIn post from one of the founders of Netflix and I wanted to read it out because it was quite humanizing for somebody that's just spent a lot of money. Mark Randolph wrote, 29 years ago, I debated whether I could afford to spend $50,000 on the domain name I really wanted for Netflix. So he says it was replay.com. I decided that was crazy money. Netflix it was. To hear now that they can afford to pay $70 billion US for something is pretty mind-blowing.
That is quite the reflection on their journey. Also, is now a good time to bring up how they started? Do you know?
No.
Okay, fun fact.
Okay.
I
love trivia in the middle of a podcast.
I always thought that Netflix was a newer company in terms of the entertainment industry, but they actually started as a DVD rental company and they sent DVDs by air, like they sent them to customers. And so it didn't start as a streaming platform, but they transformed and innovated and they obviously pioneered the streaming industry.
And look at them now. And so that is one of the reasons I think that it is such a big deal. In terms of how the deal came to be, I don't know if anyone else cares as much as I do. It's like nice to get those details. there was a bit of a bidding war for Warner Bros. So it started reportedly when Paramount, which is owned by another billionaire, when Paramount made an unsolicited bid to buy Warner Bros. Then Warner Bros. Rejected that bid. And I think it happened a couple of times before Warner Bros. Were like, okay, we're going to go out for sale right now. Like there's clearly inbound interest and we're going to go out for sale. And it was at that point that Netflix started to make bids as well. And so in the end, according to reports, it was between Paramount and Netflix. But Netflix came out on top after putting in an offer that was a fair bit higher than Paramount's. And we were discussing off mic as well that they also put in a bid that was predominantly cash.
That's what I found so interesting because usually a deal like this, it would involve a lot of equity.
Yeah.
But the fact that the majority of this $83 billion US deal is cash is crazy to me.
Hello, my name's Sam. I'm the co-founder of TDA. I'm just popping in to interrupt this video to ask if you could do one thing for me, and that is press subscribe on this YouTube channel. It's the best way to show us that you love what we do and that you're here for our future. And now, back to the deep dive.
It's crazy. And presumably it's part of the reason why they were successful in winning this bidding war. And, you know, there have been lots of reports about the fact that the Warner Bros. CEO could become a billionaire himself, not the founder, the CEO currently, because of how his remuneration is structured. So there is a lot of money changing hands here. And that in itself is newsworthy. That much money changing hands is newsworthy. But I do think that the bigger conversation that's being had is about what this merger will do across the film and movie industry. So just before the deal was publicly confirmed, a group of film producers sent a letter to Congress saying that they held grave concerns about Netflix buying Warner Bros. In the letter, they said, and I quote here, Netflix views any time spent watching a movie in a theatre as time not present on their platform. They said Netflix has no incentive to support theatrical exhibition and they have every incentive to kill it.
So essentially they're saying that a deal like this means that there could now be this major, I mean, Netflix already is a major company, but it could be more of a monopoly. Well, I guess it's not a monopoly right now, but it could become a monopoly, the entertainment and streaming industry, because of this deal.
Yeah, exactly. And to be specific about what their concern is, they are saying that because Warner Bros. Is not itself a streaming platform, they have a streaming platform, but it is kind of movie first. They're saying that Netflix won't be incentivized to have movies go out to cinemas, but in fact, they'll just go straight to the streaming services. And what does that do to the cinema industry and everyone that works in it and these big theatrical releases? Why would Netflix be incentivized to have movies go out to the box office when they could just go on the streaming service? And so that's what this anonymous letter was really concerned about. But it is interesting because the New York Times has reported that part of the deal includes a pledge from Netflix to continue theatrical releases for movies from Warner Bros. So I mean, that's clearly been identified as a pain point. And if Netflix honors this and if everything goes to plan, it should be that some movies do go to the cinemas before they are put onto Netflix.
And one thing also to mention is that this deal still needs to be approved by regulators, right?
Correct. Absolutely not a done deal. We know that there is a lot that goes into these regulatory approvals. I'm not going to pretend that I understand them all. But what you said before about competition and monopoly, those will be questions that the regulators will be looking at.
How likely is it that they could block this?
It's hard to tell. I think that from what the reporting looks like, it is fairly likely that the deal will be approved, but you never know. And also there's politics that goes into it. So many things go into it. So I think that that's probably a way to watch.
And Netflix said it could take up to 18 months for this to go through.
Yeah, exactly. But that's also relying on the breaking off of the two companies within Warner Bros. So once the CNN style company has broken off, it's its own publicly listed company, then the rest of the deal can go ahead.
And so then in terms of how it impacts Netflix's customers today, my understanding is no impact today.
Yeah.
Like we said, it will take up to 18 months for this to go through. But eventually, if it goes through, we will see Harry Potter on Netflix.
Big news.
Game of Thrones, White Lotus.
Yeah.
I am interested if how much Netflix costs per month
Yeah.
will go up.
Yeah.
Because they do have to pay for this deal somehow.
Exactly.
And does it mean that the customers will be paying for this deal?
Yeah. I mean, they certainly haven't said. They sent an email to subscribers, as you said, saying that nothing was changing today, but that they would have more to say when they had more to share. But presumably they are going to absorb all of HBO Max's subscribers. There are millions of people who subscribe to HBO Max. Some of those shows you've said are humongous. So presumably in that absorption, the cost is going to go up because you are getting more bang for your buck and you are getting more shows available to you, which I don't know if the average consumer will be stoked about.
Do we have time for a 30-second tidbit about one of my criticisms of their announcement?
Yes, go.
On Instagram, when they announced this, they said, "We're buying Warner Bros. Here's a link to the press release." And they put a link in the caption. And anyone who uses Instagram
knows you can't do that.
You can't do that. You can't put a link in your caption because no one can click on that link. That is not how Instagram works. And you would think that a company that is worth this much money would know that.
I saw somebody post that and say maybe you shouldn't have rejected my internship offers this many times, because anyone that works in social media or is on social media knows you can't click it.
I feel like it's quite a basic thing that many people know.
There you go. Have more young people in your ranks when making major billion-dollar announcements. You heard it here first.
Zara, thank you so much for taking us through that.
Thank you, Billi.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Daily Aus. I hope that it was as entertaining as a Netflix show.
Oh, big call.
We'll be back this afternoon with your evening headlines, but until then, have a great day.